Every news channel was saying injured but expected to make a full recovery, and I have no idea why, but it made me so angry.
Ever since the passing of Princess Diana, there have been a series of conspiracy theories that suggest that the accident might not have been what it was meant to look like. There have been tales of more sinister designs, which so far haven't been proven beyond doubt. In the same fashion, at 60, Sarah Spencer, Diana's sister, has just made some shocking revelations that have ignited new questions about what might have happened that unfortunate night. The revelation takes into consideration some of the minute details from the accident that could only have made sense to someone close to Diana. Join us as we unravel this new detail and the implication it has on the age-old question. Sarah Spencer was born on March 19, 1955, to John Spencer and Frances Shand Kidd. Althorpe is a country estate in Northamptonshire, England, belonging to the Spencer family since 1508, and was her childhood home. She grew up in one of the most famous aristocratic families in Britain, almost always affiliated with the royal family. Sarah had a privileged childhood and attended two of the most prestigious private schools in Britain, namely Riddlesworth Hall and West Heath. Her family was close to the British royal family, and this formed the basis for her relationship with Prince Charles, and subsequently the introduction of her younger sister Diana to him. Sarah had a close but sometimes competitive relationship with Diana, who was 5 years her junior. Like most siblings, they sometimes had rivalries, but they did share a deep bond. As Diana came of age, Sarah took on a somewhat protective role, often coaching her sister through the intricacies of their social world. Though different in many ways, Sarah and Diana did share common interests. For example, they both loved animals and enjoyed charitable work, thus establishing a groundwork of mutual respect and support between them. Sarah met Prince Charles in 1977 while he was dating her. When this romance occurred, Sarah had been a lively young woman known for her vitality and a good deal of confidence. It was quite a brief relationship, as it never developed into a more serious affair. At the time, though, she did introduce Charles to her sister Diana. She had just turned 16 years old, he was 29, and promptly fell in love with the sparking personality and natural beauty she possessed. Indeed, the romance between Sarah and Charles did fade, but she remained a close friend to him. Sarah played the pivotal role of setting up Diana with Charles, inadvertently planting the seed for one of the most famous romances in recent history. In a now famous interview in 1981, Sarah said that she would not marry Charles if he were the dustman or the King of England, which at that point merely quantified her relationship with him as informal and without permanent intentions. That, in addition to her vivacious nature and persona, probably sealed the end of any romance that might have been between her and Charles, but it also opened the way for Diana's budding relationship with him. When Diana and Charles started dating, Sarah was supportive of her sister's new role in the limelight. Though Diana's relationship with Charles would eventually be plagued by public scrutiny and personal turmoil, Sarah is said to have been proud of Diana for the way she wowed the world and inspired millions. Sarah joined the millions of people when Charles and Diana were married in 1981 and remained close to Diana throughout her life. She was the missing link between her sister and Prince Charles, and this union of Charles and Diana made Sarah Spencer quite an important figure in this royal love story. Diana Spencer's courtship with Prince Charles started in 1980, a romance that impressed everyone at the time. Diana was a 19-year-old, quiet, modest young woman who seemed to embody every trait that might be thought of to define a future princess. Charles was 31 and finding himself under increasing pressure to marry since he was next in line for the British throne. They started dating after Diana was invited along on a weekend visit to a country estate belonging to a mutual friend, and soon the two began to date more seriously. Despite an age difference of over a decade and one in which Diana was young and inexperienced in public life, their romance kicked off with regular public appearances and increasing media attention. As the engagement progressed in February of 1981, Charles popped the question to Diana. She instantly said yes, and the engagement was made public through mass media. notwithstanding the quite sufficient presentation of the fairy tale of true love to the outside world. During their engagement, Charles made unguarded comments that suggested his reservations about them as a couple. In one famous interview, when asked if they were in love, Charles responded ambiguously, "Whatever in love means." Diana looked decidedly uneasy and responded that of course they were in love. Charles's comment implied he had a much more reserved view of their relationship, but Diana chose not to press the issue at the time. In that sense, Charles's response was a foreshadowing of things to come. His "whatever in love means" response to the question of love hurt Diana, who believed deeply in the romance of their union. On his part, Charles was more pragmatic and, some will argue, resignedly accepting his royal duty to marry and secure the line of succession. While Diana may have harbored the assumption that love would develop over time, for Charles it was considerably more complicated because of his long-term attachment with Camilla Parker Bowles, a former lover in whom he had invested much passion. Camilla remained in Charles's life, adding an undercurrent of tension to which Diana would perhaps not have been fully privy. Despite these glaring problems, Diana proceeded to marry him anyway, in what was arguably one of the most over-the-top royal weddings ever. It's estimated that 750 million people around the world tuned in on July 29, 1981, as Diana and Charles tied the knot at St. Paul's Cathedral. A grandiose ceremony it was, indeed, with Diana donning a show-stopping ivory silk gown adorned with 10,000 pearls and a 25-foot train. The procession to the wedding, the ceremony itself, and the entry of Diana through it all was hypnotic, solidifying the notion of a fairy tale in marriage for millions of viewers. Diana was enchanted by the pomp and ceremony and appeared to accept her role as that of a princess wholeheartedly. Perhaps this pressure to be an idealized princess was what led Diana to overlook Charles when he initially said, "Whatever in love means." She was determined to step into her role, perhaps believing that any uncertainties could be overcome through commitment and the responsibilities that awaited her. The commitment only led her into a marriage filled with emotional distance, miscommunication, and infidelity, as Diana later learned about Charles's ongoing attachment to Camilla. A wedding day of splendor marked the beginning of Diana's move into royal life and the struggles that would ensue. While Charles's remarks on love somewhat intimated their final challenges, Diana's commitment to the marriage and her desire to fulfill the fairy tale expectations overshadowed any doubts. Despite the fairy tale image of their publicized marriage, Princess Diana and Prince Charles had a number of problems within their relationship, many of which came to light over time. Most predominantly, Charles's long-standing relationship with Camilla Parker Bowles, his girlfriend prior to Diana, was an immense strain on their marriage. Although Charles and Diana had some happy moments in the beginning, over time, their relationship started to deteriorate because Diana became increasingly aware that Charles had remained attached to Camilla. The pain of that realization fed tension and resentment that made it hard to keep a loving partnership together. The cracks began to appear in the late 1980s when Charles and Diana started leading virtually separate lives. It was not long before each sought solace outside the relationship. Diana famously termed the marriage as having 3 people in it, referring to Camilla's residual presence. Admitting this during the 1995 interview with BBC's Panorama, the public got to identify with Diana's pain. The scandal heated in the early 1990s when intimate phone calls between Charles and Camilla, recorded years earlier, became public. It exposed the depth of their relationship and, in turn, humiliated Diana in a wave of public outcry. Following these exposures, Charles and Diana legally separated in 1992, and their divorce was finally completed in 1996. Diana was awarded a heavy settlement, but was relieved of her royal title of Her Royal Highness, keeping for herself the title of Princess of Wales. The separation gave Diana the opportunity to follow her own course and return to her charity work, but she still remained relentlessly pursued by the media. After the divorce, Diana tried to put her life together, She continued to support causes dear to her heart and her charity work, especially her efforts concerning landmines and HIV/AIDS. In 1997, Diana engaged in a highly publicized romance with Egyptian film producer Dodi Fayed, son of billionaire Mohammed Al Fayed. The two drew the media in scores and would often be chased by paparazzi across the globe. Diana and Dodi had been in Paris on the night of August 31, 1997, when their car, chased by paparazzi, crashed in the tunnel under Pont de l'Alma. Diana, Dodi, and the driver, Henri Paul, who later was found to be under the influence of alcohol, died in that car accident. In the days following her death, mourners around the world left flowers, notes, and tributes at Kensington Palace, where Diana had often lived with her sons. When Princess Diana died so tragically in 1997, her older sister, Lady Sarah McCorquodale, was heartbroken. As the oldest of the Spencer siblings, always looking out for Diana, Sarah shared a deep bond with her sister despite often being characterized by sibling rivalry. After Diana died, Sarah was heartbroken and played a highly important part in the days after her sister's death in paying respects and being supportive of her nephews, Prince William and Harry. After those years, Sarah spoke with many people regarding her complex relationship with both Diana and Prince Charles. Before Diana's romance with Charles got underway, Sarah had dated him briefly in 1977. She later claimed, however, that she did not harbor any residual romantic feelings for Charles and was genuinely pleased when her sister took up with him. More than once, Sarah spoke with pride about how she felt happy to see Diana in the limelight, acting with poise and humanity befitting a princess. When Diana and Charles were getting married, Sarah was graceful enough to attend their wedding and even played an important role in the entire royal fanfare. In interviews, Sarah said any romantic relationship she may have had with Charles had little significance for her because she never expected anything permanent between them. Instead, it was nice to see her sister so much in love and eagerly awaiting her future. However, Sarah also shared that she was heartbroken for Diana, considering her marriage difficulties, public discord with Charles, and complexities with Camilla Parker Bowles. That friendship went right up until that dire period when she was giving all her support, understanding, and strength as Diana faced the rocks of her royal life. Of course, following the untimely death of Diana in the car crash in Paris, Sarah's grief also became interwoven with the hanging questions and suspicion taping the circumstances surrounding the accident. One thing that bothered Sarah so much was that Diana's seatbelt wasn't on at the time of the accident. According to Sarah, Diana was always conscious about putting on her seatbelt. She found herself wondering why, on the night of the car crash, Diana wasn't wearing it. And with that came many more questions about what was actually true about the accident. Sarah has granted a number of interviews in which she has expressed difficulty in accepting that Diana's death was simply an accident caused by the driver's impairment, in combination with the relentless pursuit by the paparazzi. The questions posed by Sarah when they were raised resonated with many already skeptical of the circumstances and helped fuel ongoing public debates and conspiracy theories about what really happened that night in Paris. Sarah has also been committed to preserving Diana's legacy. She was appointed as the president of the Diana, Princess of Wales Memorial Fund, established to carry on with Diana's charitable work. Under Sarah's care, the fund supported many causes dear to Diana's heart, including campaigns against landmines and initiatives for HIV/AIDS awareness. The work with this fund was a means for Sarah to channel her grief into ensuring that Diana's dreams don't go to waste. Over the years, she has been one of the strongest advocates for her sister's memory, speaking at events and participating in memorial services. She often reflects on Diana's legacy as the people's princess and expresses pride in the way Diana was able to touch lives around the world. In interviews, Sarah spoke with affection about Diana's warmth, her natural empathy, and her instinctive connection to ordinary people. Though it was a sad end for Diana, Sarah took comfort from knowing her sister's compassion and kindness had made its mark. All these years, Sarah has continued to be loyal to Diana and has tried to keep her legacy, which in turn has helped Sarah to heal. Though Sarah has publicly expressed doubts about the exact nature of the crash, she has ultimately put her energy into celebrating Diana's life, rather than dwelling on what was left unanswered. With her death, the role of Sarah as an elder sister changed. She had to take care of her sister's memory not only for her sons, but also for the public. Eventually, Sarah McCorquodale has become resilient and committed since Diana's death. While she might never know everything that happened on that fateful night, her devotion to the legacy of Diana remains an inspiration to all those who admired the People's Princess. With her work for the Diana Memorial Fund and with the public tributes, she has ensured that Diana's spirit will live on, celebrating the memory of her sister with the same elegance and compassion that characterized Diana's life. Let's take a more detailed look at some of the causes dear to Diana. Soon after her marriage to Prince Charles, Princess Diana rapidly earned a name for herself in people's hearts with regard to her compassion, warmth, and unwavering dedication to charitable causes. Her work among the people earned her the affectionate title of the People's Princess, a testimony of her singular ability to reach out across classes to the people. Diana took up a wide array of advocacies which also included support for those affected by HIV/AIDS, landmine victims, homelessness, and cancer. She used this opportunity to bring attention to misunderstood issues, raise awareness, and destigmatize those often shunned by society. The most outstanding work Diana undertook was the time she spent with HIV/AIDS patients during the period when the disease was deeply stigmatized and was misconstrued. In the 1980s, as it appeared, everyone was afraid of people who suffered from HIV/AIDS. It wasn't until 1987 that Diana made the breakthrough when she visited the AIDS ward at Middlesex Hospital in London. She made news when she became the first member of the royal family to touch an AIDS patient without wearing gloves against the popular misconception that one got the virus through casual contact. That single act of compassion changed public perception of the disease and encouraged empathy and understanding necessary for those affected. Her support for HIV/AIDS charities continued throughout her life, using her influence to help raise millions for research and care. Another cause close to Diana's heart was the campaign to ban landmines, which continued to threaten civilians long after hostilities had ended. Diana traveled in 1997 with the International Red Cross to Angola and, donning protective gear, walked through a minefield. This willingness to place herself in harm's way in an effort to raise awareness on the issue underlined her commitment to humanitarian causes. Diana's efforts significantly raised international awareness of the landmine crisis and helped set the stage for the signing of the Ottawa Convention, an international treaty to ban landmines, later that year. Aside from her work dealing with HIV/AIDS and landmines, Diana was also involved with numerous charities concerning children, the homeless, and cancer patients. She was a patron for organizations such as Great Ormond Street Hospital for Children and Centrepoint, a charity that works with homeless youth. Through her patronage and personal visits, Diana brought attention and funding to these causes. Often she would show up unannounced at hospitals and shelters to offer whatever emotional and spiritual support she could. Her presence lent visibility and credence to the causes she supported, and donations along with volunteer support rose significantly. Diana's means of conducting charity work was sealed with her readiness to engage directly with those who suffered at the hands of the causes she championed. While other royals often kept their distance with reserved manners, Diana was a lady of hugs, sympathy, and listening. She treated everyone with dignity and respect, regardless of their background. And for that reason, the public has grown to love her as the People's Princess. Diana's compassion and ability to use her platform for good transformed her from a royal figure into a beloved global humanitarian icon. Her legacy of advocacy continues to inspire charitable efforts around the world today. Diana's tragic death brought to a close a life of triumph and tragedy. Against the context of the unhappy marriage and bruising relations with the royal family, Her death had a lasting impact on the monarchy. The legacy of the people's princess remains through her humanitarian causes, her sons, and the profound influence she has had on millions worldwide. That will be all for this video, and we will see you in the next one.